Beijing has just taken a commanding lead. Chinese scientists have created temperatures 6 times hotter than the core of our actual sun.
How could China ever do this, exceeding the sun's heat, and turn it to a global power and energy? Xi Jinping knows exactly what he's doing with their new artificial sun that can probably beat the oil empire of the Emirates and America. Is it truly one promising energy source, or we might wait for long years until fusion energy is completely functioning? Even hotter than the sun, in January 2025, China made a historic leap in the pursuit of fusion energy, a potential game changer for the global energy landscape. The country's East Experimental Advanced Superconducting Tokamak reactor held fusion plasma at an astonishing 120 million degrees Celsius, 5 times hotter than the core of the sun, for a full 1,000 seconds. This breakthrough signifies not just a technical achievement, but also a shift that could lead to a monumental energy revolution, one with the potential to redefine global energy dynamics. The milestone, which many experts had once thought would be decades away, demonstrates the power of concentrated investment and scientific determination. The implications of China's fusion breakthrough extend far beyond a single scientific achievement. They mark the dawn of a new energy era that could change the way the world powers itself. Fusion energy promises to provide a nearly limitless and clean energy source, with the potential to meet humanity's growing energy needs without the environmental damage caused by fossil fuels. If fusion energy becomes commercially viable in the coming decades, it could usher in an era of affordable, sustainable energy that could reshape economies, reduce global greenhouse gas emissions, and reduce the need for oil, coal, and natural gas. However, this momentous development comes with significant global consequences, particularly for the United States, which now faces a pressing question: how will it respond to China's rapid advancements in fusion energy? The revolutionary potential of fusion energy. Fusion energy, the process of harnessing the power of nuclear fusion, essentially the same process that powers the sun, has long been considered the holy grail of clean energy. Unlike nuclear fission, which splits atoms and generates dangerous waste, fusion combines lighter atoms like hydrogen to create heavier atoms, releasing massive amounts of energy. This process does not produce harmful emissions, and the fuel is abundant, potentially lasting for millions of years. If harnessed successfully, fusion could revolutionize the energy sector, slashing energy costs and reducing reliance on fossil fuels. China's East reactor has shown that achieving sustained and stable fusion reactions is not only possible, but achievable within the next decade. With the goal of producing clean, almost limitless energy, fusion technology promises to transform how electricity is generated. The potential benefits are profound. By 2040, some experts predict that fusion could reduce energy bills to as low as $20 a month, a staggering decrease compared to current energy costs, which are impacted by the volatility of fossil fuel prices. This clean and sustainable energy could also have far-reaching implications for industries outside of energy. In the transportation sector, fusion could lead to electric vehicles, EVs, that charge in mere minutes, eliminating range anxiety and dramatically reducing the need for oil. Space travel could become more feasible, as the immense energy produced by fusion could power spacecraft on long-distance missions to Mars and beyond. Furthermore, industries such as manufacturing and agriculture could benefit from low-cost, abundant energy, potentially sparking a new wave of innovation and economic growth. China dominating energy. With its recent achievement in fusion plasma containment, China is firmly positioning itself at the forefront of fusion energy development. The 1,000-second milestone, reached in January 2025, is a significant leap from the previous 1-to-1 second benchmark set just a few years earlier in 2021. This rapid progress demonstrates China's commitment to not only achieving fusion, but also making it a practical and scalable energy source far sooner than most experts anticipated. China's lead in fusion research comes as part of a broader strategy to dominate the global energy sector. As the world's most populous country and second-largest economy, China has long faced energy security concerns. By developing fusion technology, China could meet its own massive energy demands while reducing its reliance on imported oil and gas. However, the implications extend beyond national security. Fusion energy could position China as the world leader in energy production. The economic benefits of fusion energy are staggering. The global energy market is currently valued at trillions of dollars, and fusion has the potential to disrupt the $3 trillion fossil fuel industry. Traditional energy sources like coal, oil, and natural gas, which have long been the backbone of the global economy, could be rendered obsolete by fusion, leading to a seismic shift in global economic power. With fusion, China could not only meet its own energy needs, but also export energy to other nations, potentially reshaping geopolitical alliances and international trade. Experts predict that China's fusion developments could trigger a market worth as much as $5 trillion by 2040, according to estimates from Morgan Stanley. This could allow China to gain significant influence over global energy markets, and in turn lead to greater economic power, political leverage, and technological dominance. Will and the US catch up? The US, in an awkward position, the at-home fusion energy breakthrough in China presents a stark challenge to the United States, which risks falling behind in the race to develop fusion as a commercially viable energy source. For decades, the US has been a global leader in energy innovation, but China's rapid progress in fusion research is forcing a reassessment of America's position in the global energy landscape. The US has historically been a leader in nuclear fission energy, and its efforts in clean energy innovation have been significant, especially in the fields of solar and wind energy. However, when it comes to fusion, the US has seen its position slip. Historically, the US has made significant investments in fusion research, with programs like the National Ignition Facility, NIF, and the ITR, International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor. Project in Europe being key players in the pursuit of fusion energy. Yet, fusion development has always been marked by long timelines and technical hurdles, and the US has not been able to match China's pace in recent years. As a result, China's rapid fusion advancements have put the US in a precarious position. While the US is still involved in fusion research, its pace of progress may not be enough to keep up with China's ambitious plans. The implications of falling behind in fusion development are immense. Energy is the backbone of modern economies, and the nation that leads the way in fusion energy will have the upper hand in terms of economic influence, technological leadership, and geopolitical power. The US risks losing its competitive edge in energy production, potentially relegating itself to a secondary role in the global energy market. Moreover, China's dominance in fusion could lead to further shifts in global alliances and trade patterns, making it more difficult for the US to secure energy independence in the future. The US now faces a critical decision point. How can it accelerate its efforts in fusion energy to remain competitive on the global stage? The answer will require a renewed commitment to research and development, as well as substantial government investment. Fusion energy, by nature, requires collaboration between governments, scientists, and private companies, and the US must step up its efforts in all three areas if it hopes to reclaim its position as a leader in energy innovation. One possible approach would be to increase funding for fusion research programs like ITER, which is currently an international collaboration involving the US, China, and other countries. Additionally, private sector involvement in fusion energy is expected to grow significantly in the coming years, with companies like Helion Energy, Tokamak Energy, and others working on developing commercial fusion reactors. The US government could incentivize innovation by offering grants, tax incentives, and partnerships with private companies to accelerate progress. The US must also focus on developing the infrastructure and workforce needed to support fusion energy in the long term. Training the next generation of fusion scientists, engineers, and technicians will be key to ensuring that the country remains competitive in the new energy era. This also means fostering a culture of innovation and ensuring that US universities and research institutions remain at the forefront of global scientific advancements. Finally, the US must engage in a broader strategy to transition its energy sector to cleaner, more sustainable sources, including fusion. While fusion is still in its infancy, it holds the potential to play a pivotal role in combating climate change and reducing reliance on fossil fuels. The US must make bold investments in both fusion energy and other clean energy technologies, positioning itself as a leader in the fight for a sustainable future. China's fusion energy breakthrough marks a significant shift in the global energy landscape. With the potential to revolutionize energy production, lower energy costs, and eliminate fossil fuel dependence, fusion energy could change the course of history. However, the rapid advancements in China's fusion research pose a serious challenge to the US, which risks being left behind in this new energy frontier. To maintain its competitive edge, the US must invest heavily in fusion energy research, support innovation, and work collaboratively with private and international partners. The race for fusion energy is on, and the nation that leads the way will hold the keys to the future of global energy. But what if it starts impacting the oil department, oil industry dominance? The oil industry has been a cornerstone of global energy for over a century. Countries like Saudi Arabia, with its vast oil reserves, and the United States, as both a major producer and consumer, have built powerful economies around the oil market. The fossil fuel sector has immense geopolitical influence, determining global trade routes, shaping political relationships, and contributing significantly to national economies. Saudi Arabia, in particular, is highly dependent on oil exports, with the petroleum sector representing around 90% of its export revenues. For decades, it has held considerable sway over global oil prices and played a central role in the organization of the petroleum exporting countries, OPEC. Similarly, the US oil industry, while increasingly diversified with the growth of shale oil and natural gas, still plays a dominant role in global energy markets. However, despite its entrenched position, the oil industry faces several existential threats, primarily in the form of climate change and the global push for cleaner, renewable energy sources. The rise of electric vehicles, the increasing reliance on solar and wind power, and now the growing potential of fusion energy, all signal a transition away from fossil fuels. Fusion energy versus oil. China's rapid progress in fusion energy could, in the long run, challenge the dominance of the oil industry. While fusion is still in its infancy, the potential to produce cheap, clean, and virtually limitless energy could gradually render fossil fuels less competitive, particularly in energy-intensive sectors like electricity generation, transportation, and manufacturing. If fusion energy becomes commercially viable within the next few decades, its widespread adoption could drastically reduce global demand for oil. Fusion energy could disrupt the power generation industry by offering a far more sustainable and cost-effective alternative to natural gas, coal, and nuclear energy. Countries that currently rely heavily on oil and gas for power generation could shift to fusion as a cleaner, more reliable energy source. If China can lead the way in commercializing fusion energy, it could set the stage for a global energy transition, with countries eager to tap into affordable and sustainable energy. One of the largest consumers of oil worldwide is the transportation sector. The rise of electric vehicles has already begun to reduce oil demand in some regions, especially as EV charging infrastructure expands. If fusion energy can provide cheap electricity, the cost of powering EVs could become negligible, further reducing dependence on oil for transportation. Additionally, fusion could provide the energy necessary for longer-distance electric aviation and maritime travel, creating further disruption to oil markets. Industries that currently rely on oil and natural gas for high-energy processes, such as steel manufacturing, chemical production, and cement, could benefit from fusion energy's vast potential. Fusion reactors could provide the steady, reliable power needed for heavy industries, while simultaneously eliminating carbon emissions. The potential to power factories and large-scale industrial operations with fusion could significantly undermine the global market for oil-based industrial fuel. The geopolitical influence of oil-producing nations, especially those in the Middle East, could be weakened if fusion energy becomes commercially viable. Countries like Saudi Arabia, which derive a substantial portion of their revenue from oil exports, could see their economic leverage diminished. Similarly, the US, while also a major oil producer, could see less influence in energy markets if fusion takes hold globally, as the country shifts away from fossil fuel dependency. Long road ahead. For fusion, a reality check. While the potential of fusion energy is immense, there are still significant challenges to overcome before it can replace oil on a large scale. China's East Reactor's achievement in January 2025, while impressive, is only one step in the long journey toward commercial fusion energy. There are still many technical and engineering hurdles to overcome, such as improving the efficiency of fusion reactions, developing materials that can withstand the extreme conditions inside a fusion reactor, and scaling up fusion reactors to produce energy on a large scale. Moreover, fusion energy will likely not be a quick fix to the world's energy needs. Even if the technology matures within the next couple of decades, fossil fuels will likely continue to play a dominant role in the global energy mix for some time. Countries like Saudi Arabia and the US may still maintain significant control over energy markets, especially in the short to medium term, as fusion energy works its way through the complex stages of commercialization. China's fusion energy breakthrough has certainly positioned the country as a potential global leader in clean, limitless energy. If fusion technology can be developed into a practical, commercially viable energy source, it could challenge the current dominance of the oil industry, particularly in sectors like electricity generation, transportation, and industrial applications. However, the transition from fossil fuels to fusion energy will take time, and oil-producing nations like Saudi Arabia and the US are unlikely to be displaced overnight. While fusion may eventually become a primary energy source, the oil industry will likely remain important for decades as both Saudi Arabia and the US continue to rely on oil exports and internal consumption. The ultimate impact of fusion on the oil market will depend on the speed of technological advancement, government policy decisions, and the global appetite for clean energy solutions. However, with China at the forefront of fusion research, the future of the global energy landscape is poised for dramatic change, one that could significantly alter the power dynamics between traditional oil giants and emerging energy innovators. Energy is strong but still weak. Fusion energy, the process that powers the sun, has long been a dream for scientists and energy experts around the world. With China's recent advancements and the growing potential of this technology, the world may be on the brink of a transformative shift in how we generate and consume energy. The potential impact of fusion energy could be profound, affecting nearly every aspect of modern society. While the benefits are immense, there are also significant challenges that will need to be addressed as we move toward this new energy era. Perhaps the most immediate and profound benefit of fusion energy would be the drastic reduction in energy costs. Fusion offers the potential for nearly unlimited, virtually free energy. Once fully developed and scaled up, fusion reactors could provide power at a fraction of the cost of current energy sources. Energy, which has become a major expense for both households and industries, could become far more affordable. By 2040, experts predict that monthly electricity costs could fall to just $20. This would not only make energy more accessible for individuals, but could also reshape the global economy by significantly lowering operating costs for industries across the board. For emerging markets and developing nations, this could be a game changer. Many regions of the world still face significant barriers to energy access, and the high cost of energy can act as a barrier to economic development. Affordable, clean fusion energy could help to lift millions out of energy poverty by providing them with reliable and cheap power. This would enable emerging economies to leapfrog traditional energy infrastructure and build a more sustainable and equitable future for their populations. For example, in parts of Africa and Asia, where infrastructure development is often limited, fusion could provide a much-needed alternative to the often unreliable and expensive sources of power currently in use. Another monumental benefit of fusion energy is its potential role in combating climate change. The United Nations has set ambitious climate goals, including the target of halving global emissions by 2035. Achieving this goal will require a radical shift away from carbon-intensive energy sources like coal, oil, and natural gas, and the adoption of cleaner, more sustainable alternatives. Fusion energy is a key player in this transformation, offering the promise of zero greenhouse gas emissions, unlike fossil fuel-based energy generation. Fusion does not produce harmful carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxides, sulfur dioxide, or other pollutants associated with fossil fuels. This makes it a powerful tool in the global effort to reduce the impacts of climate change. If fusion energy were to be deployed at scale, it could replace much of the world's reliance on fossil fuels, leading to a significant reduction in global emissions. Unlike solar and wind energy, which are intermittent and depend on weather conditions, fusion could provide a steady and reliable source of power, offering a dependable baseline for electricity grids worldwide. Additionally, fusion power plants are compact and scalable. This is important because it means that fusion technology could be deployed in a variety of settings, from large urban centers to remote, off-grid areas. The scalability of fusion reactors means they could be used in a decentralized way, helping to provide clean energy where it is most needed. This could be particularly impactful in countries with high energy demand, but limited infrastructure to support large, centralized power plants. The widespread adoption of fusion energy could therefore play a key role in achieving the ambitious climate targets set by the global community, enabling nations to meet their decarbonization goals while ensuring energy security for future generations. While the potential benefits of fusion energy are enormous, the transition to a world powered by fusion comes with its own set of significant challenges. One of the most pressing concerns is the potential for job displacement in sectors tied to fossil fuels. The fossil fuel industry, comprising oil, gas, and coal, currently employs millions of people around the world. In the US alone, over 1.5 million workers are directly employed in these industries. A transition to fusion energy could lead to large-scale job losses, particularly in regions where the economy is heavily dependent on fossil fuel extraction and processing. Many communities around the world rely on the oil, gas, and coal industries for their livelihoods. In regions like West Virginia, Texas, and parts of Saudi Arabia and Russia, the jobs provided by these sectors are not just a source of income, but are also woven into the social fabric of these areas. As fusion energy becomes more commercially viable, these industries could shrink or even disappear, leaving many workers without jobs or new career prospects. This economic disruption would have ripple effects on local economies, with businesses that depend on the fossil fuel industry for trade and services also likely to be impacted. Without a clear transition plan, this shift could lead to significant social and economic challenges. As workers lose their jobs, many will require retraining and support to transition into the clean energy sector or other industries. Governments and companies will need to implement programs that help these displaced workers gain new skills, secure new jobs, and support the regions most impacted by the shift. At the same time, while fusion could create millions of new jobs in the clean energy sector, such as in the development, construction, and maintenance of fusion power plants, it will take time to build up the infrastructure needed to support a global fusion energy economy. This creates a period of uncertainty in the transition, where jobs in the fossil fuel sector may be lost before fusion technology is ready to take over on a large scale. Did you know for fusion energy to finally take over, it demands thousands of experts and seriously skilled laborers? It's another dilemma: addressing the skills gap. The transition to fusion energy will also require a new generation of highly skilled workers. Developing, building, and operating fusion reactors is a highly specialized field that will require a new wave of scientists, engineers, and technicians. While the clean energy sector is expected to grow rapidly in the coming decades, it is important that we prepare a workforce that is equipped with the necessary skills. This will require significant investments in education, training, and research programs. The development of fusion technology is still in the early stages, and it's essential that we foster a pipeline of talent to help push the technology forward. Universities and research institutions will play a central role in this process, and governments will need to incentivize research and development efforts in the field of fusion energy. Collaboration between academia, the private sector, and the government will be crucial to accelerating the adoption of fusion energy and ensuring that the necessary workforce is in place to support it. Fusion energy represents a transformational opportunity to reshape the world's energy landscape. It offers the promise of cheap, clean, and virtually limitless power that could drastically reduce energy costs, help mitigate climate change, and drive economic growth, particularly in emerging markets. However, the road to realizing this potential is not without its challenges. The transition to fusion energy will require careful management to address the job displacement that may result from the decline of the fossil fuel industry, as well as the development of new skills and technologies to support the growth of the fusion sector. While the shift to fusion energy is still years away, the potential rewards are too significant to ignore. By investing in fusion energy today, we can lay the groundwork for a more sustainable, affordable, and equitable energy future. With thoughtful planning and strategic investment, fusion energy could be the key to unlocking a clean energy future, one where the world's energy needs are met without the harmful environmental consequences of fossil fuels. The disruptive potential of fusion energy is clear. It's now up to governments, industries, and individuals to make the most of this opportunity and ensure that the transition to a fusion-powered world is just and equitable for all. The honest future of this kind of energy, fusion energy, is often touted as the ultimate solution to our planet's energy problems: clean, nearly limitless power without the downsides of fossil fuels or traditional nuclear energy. It's the energy source that powers the sun, so why can't we harness it here on Earth? Scientists have made incredible strides in fusion research, and with countries like China, the US, and the EU pouring money into their fusion projects, it feels like we're on the brink of a new energy revolution. But as exciting as it is, the future of fusion energy isn't all sunshine and rainbows. There's a lot to consider before it becomes a mainstream solution, and the truth is, the road to fusion power isn't going to be as fast or as simple as we might hope. Let's start with the good stuff: why everyone's so excited about fusion energy. In theory, fusion has the potential to provide an almost infinite amount of energy. Unlike fossil fuels, which are finite, fusion could tap into the abundant supply of isotopes like deuterium, which can be extracted from water, to generate energy. It's clean, meaning it doesn't emit harmful greenhouse gases, and it doesn't leave behind dangerous, long-lived waste like traditional nuclear fission reactors. The idea that we could generate huge amounts of power without trashing the environment or leaving a toxic legacy is, frankly, an energy dream come true. Imagine a future where we could meet all of our energy needs – electricity, transportation, manufacturing – without worrying about carbon emissions or air pollution. In a world increasingly concerned with climate change, fusion promises to be the silver bullet that could slash our reliance on fossil fuels and significantly cut global carbon emissions. And, unlike renewable sources like solar or wind, fusion wouldn't depend on the weather, making it a more reliable source of energy. Reality? It's still early days. That said, fusion energy isn't going to be a quick fix. Despite decades of research and billions of dollars invested into fusion projects, we're still a long way from achieving commercially viable fusion energy. The recent breakthroughs in countries like China and the US, such as holding plasma at extremely high temperatures for longer periods, are groundbreaking, but we're still in the proof-of-concept phase. Fusion reactions require incredibly high temperatures, millions of degrees Celsius, and extreme pressure to force atoms to combine. The problem is that it's challenging to contain that heat and pressure long enough to generate more energy than we put into the system. Think of trying to hold a sun-sized amount of energy in a tiny container without it escaping. Right now, fusion reactors require more energy to keep them running than they produce, making the process far from practical for large-scale energy generation. The technology to make fusion reactors work efficiently at scale just isn't here yet, and it could take decades of trial and error before we get it right. Even if we do manage to crack the code, there are still big questions about cost, infrastructure, and where we're going to build these reactors. The first fusion plants that get built will likely be small-scale prototypes. It's not like we'll be seeing fusion power plants popping up everywhere by 2030. While the potential of fusion energy is incredibly exciting, the honest truth is that it's not something that's going to change our world overnight. We're still a long way from having fusion reactors up and running on a commercial scale. The technology, the cost, and the infrastructure all need time to develop before fusion can be relied upon as a mainstream energy source. That doesn't mean we should abandon fusion research. Far from it. Fusion has the potential to be a game-changer for the world, especially as we face the challenges of climate change and growing energy demand. But we also need to be realistic about the road ahead. The future of fusion energy is bright, but it's going to take time, investment, and careful planning to make it a practical reality. Until then, we'll need to keep exploring other clean energy options, such as solar, wind, and nuclear fission, to meet the world's growing energy needs. If you made it until the end, don't forget to hit the like button. Thanks for watching.